Good afternoon. I'm Bill Orton, and I am at a little bit of a disadvantage right now because after my presentation as the National Committeeman, a gentleman met me at the back, asked if I had what I had just presented written down because he wanted to put it on a website, and I handed it to him, not remembering that I had my speech to present Pete Ashdown written on the back of it. So my presentation speech is roaming around somewhere out there, so I'm going to wing it. But I remember when I was 17 years old, 30 years ago, a young man from Pennsylvania, who was 40 years old at the time, had moved to Utah to take advantage of a political opportunity to get involved in politics. And he stood up and rather brashly announced to the people of Utah that 18 years in Washington, D.C. was too long for anyone to serve in the United States Senate. He announced that after 18 years in the Senate, that anyone would become so corrupted and polluted with their own words, reading their own press releases, involved in that Washington speak, becoming so involved inside the Beltway that they would completely lose contact and lose touch with the voters in their own state. That they wouldn't know what was going on back home, and it would be time for them to go home and be replaced by someone else. That young man announced that our current senator, the venerable and respected Ted Moss, was completely out of new ideas, that he didn't know what Utah needed, that senator was out of touch, that it was time for him to go home. He announced that we needed someone with fresh ideas. He announced that seniority for seniority's sake was simply useless, that it was unacceptable, it was unneeded, and that we needed to send a new face, a new, energetic, a young man there who could bring new, fresh ideas to the Senate. For the first, and maybe last time, Orrin Hatch was absolutely right. Now, 30 years later, Orrin Hatch is saying, 30 years is not too long. It's not enough. After 30 years of drinking the water and reading his own press releases and being involved, he's not out of touch. After 30 years, that seniority really is the most important thing for Utah. That we need that seniority. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here today, we are going to hear from that new young man with fresh ideas, that young man who is in touch with Utah, who does know what's going on in Utah, who does understand what Utah needs. A young man not from Pennsylvania, but from Utah, with Utah roots. A young man who has actually started a business, who has employees, who knows what it's like to actually meet a payroll, who knows what it's like to go week by week running a business, it is my pleasure to place into nomination for the United States Senate the next senator from Utah, Pete Ashdown.
The bird almost touched
Thank you.
his head with his wings, while they all snapped at him again and again and again. He was very hungry.
For those of you who don't recognize this music, it's Peter and the Wolf. And for those of you who don't remember that story, Peter caught the wolf. And that's enough of the music. Thank you. Alan, have we had any out of orders today? No. Well, it's a different picture over at the Republican convention. Some of my friends over here are shooting some video, and they just got back and they said, it was scary over there. It's a great day. It's a great year to be a Utah Democrat. Throughout my visits in Utah, I've told many of you of my motivations for running for Senate. Today, I will tell you about some of the people who have inspired me to become involved in politics. When I first talked to my employees about whether I should run this race or not, one of them emailed me after and said, "Run for all those who can't, and run against all those who shouldn't." Hubie Brown was one of my inspirations. Hubie Brown was a great Utah Democrat. When he was deciding what party to join, a friend told him, if you want to be popular and play with the wealthy, be a Republican. If you want to help the people, be a Democrat. In 1934, Hubie Brown was the Democratic Party chair of Utah. He also ran for U.S. Senate. Hubie Brown had a little more than a passing affiliation with a local religious organization. But seeing that I am at a political convention, I will keep my comments political. Now, in 1965, Hubie Brown hired a secretary. Now, why is this important? Because that woman was my mother. She immigrated from Denmark, and she was a proud and loud Democrat. I have memories of my mother attending neighborhood and ward functions wearing a T-shirt that proclaimed her affiliation. It looked a little bit like this. Now, as my father will recount, we lived next door to one of the biggest Republicans in Utah. This man campaigned heartily for Ronald Reagan. He campaigned heartily for Ronald Reagan's re-election in 1984, and this annoyed my mother so much, she said, "I'm going to go out and get a Jesse Jackson sign." And Jesse Jackson didn't have that great of a presence in Utah. So what my mother did was make a sign. And she took that sign and put it on our mailbox, which was shared with the biggest Republican in Utah. Now, if that guy can send me $50, I believe there's hope for this state. By the way, this picture was taken during a time of year we used to call winter in Bountiful, Utah. I've heard repeated talk from the other side about family values. Family values ad nauseum. What I never hear them talking about are business values. Things like paying your employees a good wage. Absorbing health care costs. Building and protecting pensions. And most of all, holding the employee, the customer, the community needs above your own. This is what I have done in my business, and this is why I have been a success. And this is why I will be a success in Washington. Concern for others is core to our democratic ideals. Now, one more person who inspired me. In 2004, I had the opportunity to take my family to a country called Japan. And the first stop, I saw something that I was completely unprepared for. That first stop was in Hiroshima, Japan. This was the only building left standing after the atomic blast detonated in Hiroshima. It has been left intact as a stark reminder to that day. And at the Hiroshima Memorial, I learned about a young girl. Her name was Sadako Sasaki. She was 2 years old in 1945 when the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. In 1955, while practicing for a race, she collapsed. She had leukemia, otherwise known in Japan as the atomic bomb disease. Sadako was told that if she folded 1,000 cranes, she would be granted any wish. She folded over 1,000 and then died at age 12. Inspired by her perseverance and her fortitude, the Japanese children built a memorial to Sadako. So they built the memorial to her efforts and to world peace. And inscribed at the base of this memorial are the words, "This is our cry. This is our prayer. Peace in the world." When I was in grade school, I remember folding cranes to send to Japan for this memorial. My good fortune started the day I was born and has given me much opportunity in my life. I look at what Sadako did for peace in her short life and wonder what I can do, what we all can do. Let us all share the lesson of this remarkable girl and do all that we can to bring peace to humanity. No effort is too small. We can send an email. We can put a sign in our yard. We can write a letter. We can talk to a neighbor. We can run for office. No effort is too small. Now, we have a Congress right now that is writing off something happening in Utah on June 23rd, 2006, on the Nevada test range. Something happening to Utah. As an individual, I am doing everything in my power to make sure this does not happen. Wouldn't it be great if we had a senior senator that did the same? Is there any doubt in our minds that if it was not an election year, Senator Hatch would be asleep at the piano on Divine Strike? The debate rages over the safety of this test. But one question is clear. How does this effort benefit humanity? In fact, it does not. The United States is a great, innovative, and inventive country. America should use our technological prowess for the expansion of democracy by example and not by force. America needs leaders who understand the benefits of technology. We need to stop Divine Strike. Right now, what we have in the U.S. Senate is Jurassic Park. Large and slow-moving, devoid of new thinking, they are only concerned as to where their next meal may be found. This good old boys club has no idea that the small mammals they've been stomping on for years are about to inherit the earth. With the help of Utahns, I have built a campaign that has the following ideals. First, transparency. We need a view into Washington to know what is going on. Second, democracy. The best solutions to our problems come not from the special interests, they come from the American people. Third, privacy. We learned this week of the NSA building a database of all American calling patterns. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. If the White House wants my calling records, fine, but I want theirs. Put them up on your website, President Bush, and let us know what is going on in our White House. And last, peace. We have the courage and the strength to demand and work for peace. This is my campaign, and this is how we will win. We as a party have one goal, and that is to win. We need to work together towards that goal. We must set aside the differences, the bickering, the infighting, and reach for unity. As one party reaching out to all of America, Democrats will rebuild this nation. It is always darkest before the dawn, and it is so very dark right now. Do not despair, for the sun is rising. I see fearless Democrats standing up and leading America. I see courageous Democrats protecting our country with peace instead of war. I see visionary Democrats lighting the bright future for our families and children. Reach out, Democrats, to your friends and neighbors. Reach out, Utahns, to all of America. Tell them what is happening here. Democracy is on the rise. There will come a day when an election is won on the power of the people alone and not the size of a war chest. And that day will be November 7th. Where will you be on that day? Will you be one of the thousands that make it happen? Will you be the person who emails or calls or talks to the most people? Will you be a candidate who has been helped by other candidates on the same mission? I know where I'll be, and that's riding the donkey in Washington. Thank you, Utahns and people across America who have supported my campaign with time, encouragement, and the financial support I need. Thank you to Brett Garner, my campaign manager, for his intelligence and his dedication to this cause. Thank you to my dad for being a great dad. And my biggest booster. Thanks to my kids for being patient. And thank you, Robin, for your undying support. You are the wind beneath my wings. I attended more county conventions than any other person in Utah this year. I attended 19 county conventions, and I wish I could have been to them all, and if I didn't attend your county convention, please let me know and I will be there. I have seen some great commitment from all you Democrats, lifelong commitment, and I have some big shoes to fill. I am proud and humbled to lead this great ticket of individuals who have integrity and compassion. I am honored and humbled to accept your nomination for United States Senate.